Hey everyone, it's Andre Luck. I'm ready to kick off a new series where I'm going to talk through a concept called brand, demand, and expand, but for sports sales and B2B sports sales specifically. So this is a concept I've taken from a B2B marketing agency called Refine Labs. They have great content. I definitely encourage you to check them out. But that's where I take a lot of their lessons and learnings and look how we can apply that to sports and just improve myself as a B2B marketer. But the way they look at it is three parts of their process when they work with clients. There's the brand piece, there's the demand piece, and there's expand. And what I'll talk through today is how that relates to sports sales. And at the end of the video, talk about tangible steps that you can take to implement brand specifically today, because the first one we'll talk about in this video will be brand. So what they say is brand gets you known, demand gets you chosen, and expand makes you more profitable. So tying that to sports and even like tying back to just business in general, like brand has been a big part of how I've been able and we've been able to build the business. A lot of times when I get meetings with people or people reach out to me, they're like, hey, I've seen a lot of stuff you're doing on LinkedIn, and they just know my brand from us working together in the past or whatever it may be. So brand's a big part of helping fuel your engine. But unfortunately, that's one of the things that gets cut because it's very tough to measure. You can't directly tie an ROI to it. If I do a LinkedIn post today, how do I know how many deals I got back from that? Or if you host this event, a lot of times you want to know like how many sales came from that event. You can't always tie it back to that. Sometimes it is more just about building your brand. And brand isn't just like a logo refresh or a hype video. It's really the reputation that you build as a B2B brand or a B2B company, just through how consistent you are, your relevant messaging, the value that you provide for clients. Like those are all things that play into your brand as a B2B company and a B2B brand. So what I want to talk through first is signals that your brand's working and how you can measure that. Because again, like I said, it's difficult to measure, but you can take some patterns to see what's working, what's not, and find ways that you can invest dollars and everything like that a little more on the back end. So um, things that help. I mentioned one already. Like if people say that I've seen your content on LinkedIn or I've seen this podcast that you've been doing or something like that, those are signs that the things you're doing to help build your brand are working and people are noticing it and they're coming back and telling you that. Getting more technical with like your analytics or your operations team. Like if you see the search volume going up, that's an opportunity. And a lot of times, like if the team's playing well, you're going to get more searches. And for a sports team, people may be looking to search like the roster. But if you're looking at like things specific to businesses, like if you have a business program or like your premium suites that a lot of businesses would purchase, like if you see those type of searches going up, it means a lot of stuff you're doing from a branding standpoint that's working, and that you're starting to see some of the signals and you can measure that a little better. If you're starting to see more conversions coming from organic channels, if inbound leads that are calling in are saying phrases that you've been using in your content, like one that I use a lot is getting rid of spray and pray approaches. So if someone says that to me, I know they've probably been seeing some of my content, and we're aligned there. And then, like for a sports team, one thing they might be saying, and we talked a lot about, is like we really want to focus on driving business outcomes, not just selling tickets. So if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, we're really focused on driving outcomes and not just getting tickets for our clients," like they probably have seen some of the messaging, and that's messages and anecdotes you could share back with your marketing team to say, hey, the brand stuff we're doing is working. Like, let's invest more in that because we're hearing that on sales calls. We're getting people to come into us and tell us those type of things. One that one that I think is something we could all implement. Like when people fill out those inbound inquiries or inbound interest forms, right now there's way too many text fields that people have to fill out, and it's kind of overwhelming. And we give them the drop down menu of options that they need to choose from where they heard of us, or some don't even have that at all, like knowing where they came from. One thing that I did was I put the form up for like our business page, and this is when I was working in sports, and I had it that as an open text field so people could put in whatever they want. It's a little clutter, a little unorganized because you're not getting uniformity. But with AI now, you could take all those form fills or all those things that people fill into those areas and just dump that into like a chat GPT and be like, hey, can you group these into different buckets or characteristics or similar places that people hear about us? So now you can take some of this unstructured data and put some frameworks and data around it and some structure around it. And another one that we saw happen at times too is like if you're having like these business type events or networking events and you're seeing high level business leaders or people attending your games that are, business people, that maybe you didn't invite or aren't already in your funnel. Like they're hearing about the things you're doing in the business community. They're hearing about the events that you're putting on and they're showing up. Like that shows that word's getting out there, the brand's working, and other business people are starting to figure it out. So again, there's not one single metric to say, hey, here's what we invested in brand and here's how we're going to get a direct ROI from it. But it helps you tell that story to your executives, to your CFO, who's going to be skeptical of like, why are we spending money on brand? Like, let's spend money on headcount. Let's spend money on paid advertising where we know that if we spend X amount of dollars, we're going to get this much back. The brand is the part that's really going to help you, like we talked about long term. So what works from a branding standpoint? Like when a B2B company or for a sports team that's really focused on the B2B community, a couple of things that could work or that do work are customer storytelling. So and them telling stories in their words, not like you forcing testimonials and making that like not organic and like the forced nature of what a testimonial is, that they record it and you repurpose it, but them telling you how they've been able to achieve success. The event we hosted with our employees really drove our employee retention X amount percent. And now you're telling those organically on your sales calls. You're putting these in your marketing messages. It's not necessarily a testimonial, but taking ways that they've been using your tickets, using your suites, your hospitality to see real outcomes in their business, in their words, not things that you're asking them or forcing them to tell you or tell us. A big gap in sports right now is just thought leadership. And I know I post every single day on LinkedIn, and I'm not saying people need to do that, but like executives especially, it's good if like your salespeople or your managers or people in marketing might be posting on LinkedIn and sharing content. But if you could get your CEO, your president, your CRO, even just your VP of sales, and I say just, like that's a pretty important role, but like if you can get people in those leadership roles and not just sharing, oh, these tickets are on sale, or we just want to had a 5-game winning streak or something like that, but things that are really relevant to the people that they're looking to sell and market to. One of the biggest changes I had in my content when I was in sports is I had a consultant come in and say, you need to focus your content on LinkedIn for the people in your local business community, not your buddies in the industry anymore. And that's tough because we want to post our sales belt, or this rep achieved XYZ goal and we want to post it, and you should continue to do that from a industry branding standpoint. But if you're using this as a channel to funnel leads or to drive interest and awareness or create a brand, you want to speak to local attorneys, you want to speak to local CPAs, presidents of HVAC companies, whatever it may be that you're looking to target. What's relevant to them? And it's not your tickets. They know where to find your tickets, but like what are things going on that maybe customers that you've worked with, and you could share some of that content or things that they're telling you, industry reports for what's going on in their industry, things happening locally in the business community, and trends and problems and pain points that you're seeing. So less about selling, but educating people. And through that, organically, you'll attract people to your brand and be more interested and curious in the direct marketing messaging that you're doing. So really focusing on thought leadership as an executive. Some are doing more of that, but I think there's a huge opportunity there. And the last one is having like a differentiated perspective. A term I hear a lot of marketers say is there's a sea of sameness, because a lot of people are plugging their stuff into AI and chat GPT and they're all getting kind of the same answers, but having a little bit more of a differentiated opinion, differentiated perspective, that's going to help you stand out. So if all the sports teams are saying the exact same messaging, you coming with a differentiated perspective and opinion could really change that. So we've talked about the importance, but just to drive the point home of why it's so important to invest in brand, some of the demand strategies like advertising, paid advertising, like understanding who to go after is really difficult. There's especially in sports, there's so many industries, segments, people you could target. When you're building your brand, you attract the people that come to you. And so you stand out, kind of like I talked about the differentiated perspective and this competition of trying to get the attention of your prospects. So it's important to build the brand so you find the right people. And then you could invest more dollars. You say, all right, we have a lot of CMOs that are coming to us, how they can use our tickets for their marketing efforts. All right, let's target more of those with more paid direct marketing messaging because we see that that's working. But when you build your brand organically, you'll attract the right people. Your deals convert quicker. So I touched on it earlier, like in my business, like if people have already come to me because of the things that I've been doing or the brand that I've built, like those deals move a lot quicker than if I go out to somebody. It may help me get a meeting that they see the content I'm posting on a regular basis. But those are things like if people are choosing you or you're on their day one list, like those deals move pretty quickly because they have a need now. You've been talking to them this whole time, even though they're in that 95% of the market that's not, or 95% of your prospects that aren't in market to buy. And now they are in market and they chose you because of the brand you've built over time. And the other thing I'd say is I put in my notes here, susses out the wrong people, but it detracts, like I said earlier, the wrong people from aligning with your brand. And it may be good just to get the sale, but they may not stay with you long term if there's not alignment. And I'm smiling because my mom, she jokes like you have like a strong opinion sometimes in some of your videos, but let's say there's something that I'm very passionate about that I'm talking about. If someone doesn't align with that, they're not going to reach out to me and we're probably not going to be a good fit to work together. So building your brand organically, having a differentiated perspective, like it's going to get the right people and to attract the wrong people. So for this to be successful, like anything I've talked about in my videos, like it needs executive leadership buy-in because then the resources will be allocated and deployed to make sure this happens. You need to have a consistent feedback loop where all the parties involved, typically it's sales, it's marketing, it's like your service or your success team, probably some people in operations analytics, like consistently looking and analyzing and sharing what they're seeing, sharing the numbers they're seeing on the marketing side, sharing what you're hearing on sales calls from the sales team, what you're hearing from clients and customers on the service and customer success side, and like sharing that back with each other. So it's not just random acts of building a brand, but like everyone's working together. You need to have goals, accountability around it. And then a way that you can distribute the content, because it's one thing to collect the content and build this brand, but like how are you going to get it out there? Like for me, one thing that I like to do is like these videos because it's great because it helps me articulate some of my thoughts, and when I have meetings with people, like having these conversations are great. But I have a content flywheel now. I could take this. I usually take a couple clips and put these on videos on YouTube, on TikTok, on LinkedIn throughout the week. I take this, plug the transcript into Chat GPT, and then it gives me like a carousel ideas on things I could do for like written content on LinkedIn and posts that I could do, newsletters type stuff. So, collecting this content allows you to repurpose and have other content. So when you have a strategy like that, it helps you just more strategically and more efficiently build out your brand. So I said I'd wrap up with 3 things that you could do today if brand hasn't been a focus from a B2B perspective that you could start doing today. The first one, I touched on this earlier, leaders and reps could start sharing customer wins on LinkedIn. So I see a lot more reps and leaders getting active on LinkedIn, which I think is great. Sometimes it's like product pitching, and it's like we have these premium seats that came available. We just opened this club seat, and it has beautiful pictures of the renovations and everything like that. And continue to share those because those who are in market need to see that and want to see it. But you need to have just as much, if not more, content that's talking to the 95% who's not in market. So sharing customer wins as you have them, and as you talk to your customers or they come out to games, they have a successful group night, like just telling that story. It's not pushing at the end of it and call me to buy tickets, like people know, but like working that into some of your more direct asks, some of your more like buy now type messaging, but working in organic content as well. So you're building in the short term, midterm, and the long term your brand. You could host a pretty low cost just networking event at the ballpark. A lot of times you just need to work with your ops team. Maybe there's a small cost for like F&B, but just get the right people in the room to have conversations with each other. People go to a lot of networking events and a lot of chamber events. So what's going to stand out to you is that it's at a ballpark, it's in a premium space, it's in a suite. You can go down on the field or the court or something like that. Like that may attract more people, but not making it a sales event. If it's a sales event, then just call it a sales event, or what we saw a lot of times, like sales events didn't really close B2B. A lot of times they just closed on their own through having in-person tours and one-on-one conversations, or maybe small, like intimate dinners and lunches if you're looking to do that with people that are further down the funnel. But if you're just getting a bunch of business people together, that helps build your brand for the long term. And when they're ready, they think of you. They were out at the event. They got to meet other people. They see value in what you're doing, aside from just seeing them as a prospect that you could sell them tickets. The other thing is, yeah, collecting these customer stories and repurposing them, putting them on social media. If you have a newsletter, that's something you could create too, like a B2B type newsletter. Doing in your outbound prospecting with your sales team, they could use those in emails and phone calls and everything like that. So a lot of ways that you can get started today and just slowly start building your brand. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to start a podcast or a new YouTube series or anything like that. Like, you could take small actions now. If you see that working, then invest more into it and get more ideas involved. You start to see the long-term effect of that, because now you're starting to fill the pipeline with people that resonate with the content that you're putting out without you pushing for an ask. People aren't going on LinkedIn to buy. Businesses aren't necessarily interested in just how the team's performing. So it's less about team performance and more about the value that you could bring and drive to them. Last thing I'll close with, I remember my boss, when I was at the Diamondbacks, was going to work for the Houston Astros. At the time, the Astros were the worst team in baseball. They called us the Lastros, and eventually I joined him. We're like, man, like, it's going to be tough for you to, I think we were talking about like the premium spaces. And he's like, well, actually, like, they're sold out of premium. We're like, what? Like, they're the worst team in baseball, but Houston has a strong business community. The Astros did a great job of connecting with local business people throughout the years, that they saw the value. So it was less about the team and how they were performing, because they didn't necessarily care about team performance. You'll see some impacts to it. It impacts their ability to use tickets sometimes and things like that. But if you're doing things right, creating a good experience and showing value, they'll always spend more money if they know that they're going to get more money back. So in the next video, I'll touch on the next part of the brand demand expand, which is demand. And so how are you converting these people that you built this brand into business? In the last video, obviously, we'll talk about the expand piece. So as I say to my daughters every morning, go be awesome today, and look forward to seeing you next week in my next video. Thanks.